session to enable our partner to sell more and upsell Nutanix products. So we'll start with a brief history about Nutanix. So Nutanix is as a company founded 2009. It was the first company that brought the HCI hyperconverged concept from the Googles and Facebook data centers to end user or enterprise customers. Now we are 6,000 employees across all countries and continents. We have more than 16,000 customers right now. And from, as I said, we started at 2009. First product shipped in 2014. From then, we are the market leader for HCI. And this is proven from Gartner, Forrester, and IDC. We always came on top in this period of year. And we support our customers with the highest like quality support engineers. Usually the best thing about Nutanix is the support, as whenever you log a case, the one who's talking to you or the one you interact with is the one who solves the case. This is these support centers are spread around the world, follow the sun support, and there is no like L1, L2, L3. You just need to escalate and escalate and escalate. It's just whenever you log a case, it will be solved as soon as possible. And this is proven by 90 score of Net Promoter Score. So Net Promoter is an independent company. If you don't know it, it's scaled from -100 to 100. So this to evaluate the support of any company. So for IT is usually, if you get a 70, usually it's a good score. Maybe you get a 40 or something. But for Nutanix, for the past 5 years, we are getting 90 plus score. So this is really good and showcase the support of Nutanix. And what we are running on Nutanix, we'll talk a bit more in details in the later slides, but like if customer says, for example, in the beginning, Nutanix was associated more with the VDI, but now we can run literally every workload from VDI, from enterprise application like Exchange, Oracle, SAP HANA supported, big data like Splunk, Hadoop, all of this is supported. So we are able to run all the workload on different hardware and different hypervisors. We'll see a bit more on that. So this is why we are number one, like a chosen company to run HCI in a lot of technology industry segments, and we see a lot of adoption from world leading in brands. All of this adopted Nutanix. So let's talk about the solution itself. If you don't know what is Nutanix, what is HCI, we'll just preview and then start talking about the product. So HCI as a concept started it brings two different technologies. So we start in the data center what we call DAS. So we have a server, have a direct attached storage into it, and an application running on top of it. This application, if the server goes down for any reason, update or hardware failure, the application will go down. So this is why in early 2000, virtualization came and solved a lot of problem in this setup. We had here a virtualization layer which is spread across multiple hosts. And if one host goes down, the virtual machines or the application running on a virtual machine now can restart on any other nodes. But what was the enabler of virtualization or have this high availability? It was a shared storage or a SAN, storage attached network, storage area network. So it has a different boxes that it has controllers and attached to it the disks, and this is to share the storage across multiple of hypervisor or multiple of ESX, multiple of hosts across an FC network or FC SAN. This is again different switches, different cabling, all together different manageability and all of that. So this is why in the SAN or normal what we call a 3-tier infrastructure, we have multiple of administration points, multiple of upgrade paths. If you want to expand, you have to check the compatibility. If you want to upgrade a firmware or OS, you have to check the compatibility for each layer. So it was a big mess and a big hassle to manage. So this is why Nutanix came and replace all of the 3 tiers, storage controllers and storage network and compute servers into one box that has all the 3 tiers, and you can scale using any of your chosen hardware, either Nutanix, NX or DX, or HP or Lenovo. Actually, we have like Huawei. We have a lot of supported hardware vendors that work with us as an OEM or HCL, supported hardware compatibility list. And you can scale. So you can start with minimum 3 nodes and you can scale. Scale up to what? We don't have a physical hard limit. So there's hundreds of node clusters, there is 1,000 node cluster. It exists out there and working till this day. On top of Nutanix nodes, we have the virtualization layer, whatever you are using, ESXi or Hyper-V. And we have our own hypervisor called Acropolis Hypervisor or HB for short. And of course, we support the cloud native application with Kubernetes. But the idea here is your application is running on top of Nutanix the same as the traditional 3-tier infrastructure. So what we need from the customer, we need just power cables and network ports from the top of the rack. That's it, and we can integrate, and we off to go. So the idea is implementing Nutanix it will take just days. So how we done this and like what is inside Nutanix? So the idea is when Nutanix started, they wanted to bring whatever in the cloud into the enterprise level or private cloud. So what is in the cloud? It's web scale architecture, software defined everything, no single point of failure, and self-healing systems and machine learning. All of that is the characteristics of the cloud. So we bring all of this into the Nutanix box. So it's a software defined means if of course software defined storage, software defined data center, and it means whenever we do an upgrade, there is no downtime. It's rolling upgrade and self-healing. If something happens when you are doing an upgrade, the process stops automatically and start to recover before going on and doing a downtime for the application. This means if I'm doing when I'm doing an upgrade after I did an upgrade, I will get a new features and updates on the same features very fastly. And linear scaling, when we add one more node, the performance increase and everything increase with the storage, the performance, everything increase. So physically, as we said, there was a SAN, which is a storage controller sits behind it, just a bunch of disks or storage SSDs and HDDs. We remove the SSDs and HDDs and put it distributed across all the nodes. And instead of having only 2 controllers, we have what we call a controller virtual machine. Controller virtual machine is a storage controller, and it is the brain of Nutanix. It has its manageability, the cluster services have a lot of services there. And this storage controller gave us what we call data locality. Data locality is the ability to access, read the whatever these virtual machines want to read. It will read the local read from the local SSDs or NVMEs existing on the same node. So this is the shortest path. Instead of previously going to the fiber SAN to the SAN box to the disk, now it's direct attach and we can read from it locally. And if you want to write, we write one local copy and one copy across any other nodes. So this gives us what we call RF2. RF2 is replication factor of 2, means if one node goes down, I have 2 copies of that, no problem. But if the customer wants to have higher availability, we can offer RF3, means if 2 node goes down, I will need there is no problem and there is the third copy there. But in the RF3 configuration, we need minimum number of nodes are 5. Okay. In RF2, only 3 is the minimum number of nodes in Nutanix cluster. And this server, as I said, it can be any hardware of your choice, and the hypervisor can be any hypervisor we mentioned of the customer choice. And usually when we do this presentation, we get asked, what if, from the customer perspective, what if I need only a compute only node? I need just compute. You are forcing me to add one more node with storage and everything. No, with Nutanix, we have a compute only nodes with specific configuration we have to follow, guidelines, and we have a storage only node. Storage only node is very similar to a normal node, but it will have very small configuration in the compute power, like 8-core processor and like 64 GB of memory or 96 GB of memory, just enough to run the CVM. And it will join the cluster, the storage cluster, and increase the storage performance and the storage pool altogether. You can see here we have flash nodes and hybrid nodes in the same cluster, which is fine with Nutanix. This is the only HCI solution in the market that you can combine all flash nodes with hybrid nodes in the same cluster, and will give you the same features from compression, from deduplication, data locality. All of this we can have across all flash or hybrid nodes, even if they are in the same cluster. Okay, so to wrap your mind around it, what is node? What is block? Node is the minimum building block of Nutanix. It's a compute node with the storage attached to it. If you can see here on the left, this is the node with CPU, memory, network, and in front is the hard disks or the SSDs that will be attached to it. And this is pass-through. There is no back panel or anything. There is no single point of failure. So our single point of our minimum failure is the node itself. The node itself goes down. So this is, we consider a node goes down. If something happen, like if a disk fails, we don't consider the whole node goes down. We see whatever is written on the disk, and we try to recover. Block, we have 2U block which can contain up to 4 nodes with shared power supply only. So everything is independent. Only 2 power PSUs that one of them can take the load of all 4 nodes. Okay. So to summary up the HCI or the storage pooling features, we give the customer enterprise grade storage features like snapshot and clone, synchronous replication, data saving techniques like compression, deduplication. All of that we give them to the customer. And we have the security also, because it's a software. We can do data at rest encryption with hardware encryption disk or software enabled data at rest encryption. Okay. So in the next part of the presentation, we'll talk about the Nutanix portfolio, and we'll focus on 4 products, how to upsell them to the customer, and what is the use cases of Nutanix Engine. So the Nutanix portfolio you can see here, it's very broad. Like 5 years ago in 2015, 2016, we only had the HCI, the Acropolis OS, and HV, or the Prism, of course, and HV was Acropolis Hypervisor. So this is the main building block of Nutanix. It's what we virtualize the storage from, what we do the HCI from AOS or Acropolis OS, and we manage it from Prism. And then the Edge hypervisor HV is totally included with the product. There is no any additional cost and support. And it's based on supported by Nutanix, and it's based on KVM hypervisor. After that, we'll talk about mine later on. It's for the secondary storage use cases. So this is AOS, and Prism is for the primary storage where you run your enterprise application on, your VDI on. Mine is for the second storage use cases like backup and all of that. And we have enterprise grade software defined file services, what we call files. And also we support block storage and object storage. Object storage is when you have petabytes of storage shared as objects. It's like a Google Drive or one box. It's like that, and it's very cheap to acquire. In network, we do micro-segmentation and security. We'll talk about it later on, and it's supported with HV. This is to do micro-segmentation, the east-west traffic segmentation. We'll talk about it. And in automation and orchestration, we have Carbon. Carbon is our Kubernetes solution, means if the customer wants to deploy Kubernetes, he needs to deploy the control master node and worker node and manage the network, all of this. The system admin needs to do that, and then the developer comes and use it as pods and all of it. In Carbon, the system admin needs to log in, enable Carbon, log in, deploy Carbon in few clicks. In 3 minutes, 5 minutes, you have a fully managed Kubernetes solution deployed and ready to use. With Prism Pro, you have intelligence operation like more advanced monitoring, capacity planning, all of that the customer can use. ERA is a database management solution. Is very it's aimed for the database DBAs and database admin teams, is to help them like automate the copy of the database from one server from production to development, to take snapshots, to deploy a complete database server from scratch. We can do it with actually all what I mentioned here is managed from the same Prism console, except ERA, with Calm also. ERA is the only one from all of this is managed from a different console. Calm and all of that is managed with the same Prism console. So you have single plane of management, which is Prism. Xi is our cloud services. Anything start with XI or Xi, it's a SaaS. It's a cloud as something as a service. So we have desktop as a service solution, VDI, that the controllers of the cloud, and the client machines, the VDI machines can be on-prem or on the cloud. We have Xylib, which is a DR as a service. If the customer have its own Nutanix solution and want to build the DR, he can go and like do co-allocation or build his own DR site, or he can use Xylib, a ready-made Nutanix cluster living in the cloud. He can just replicate the virtual machine storage, virtual machine data to Xylib, and whenever he needs either to test failover or do a failover and fail back, he can do that through a few clicks. Okay, Xi clusters, it's the ability to build a complete a true hybrid cloud on-prem and on the cloud. Xi IoT for the IoT edge and all of that. So it's very broad portfolio, as you can see, and very rich for the customer. And to be honest, this is not all the products that Nutanix have. There is more actually. Okay, so let's talk about private cloud. how we can help customer reach the concept of private cloud. But why we are interested in private cloud or hybrid cloud more than we should more than the public cloud? Because if you can see here, there's 3 case studies or 3 surveys done by Forrester and IDC. In Forrester, we see like 75% people or IT management are going for hybrid cloud. So just public cloud is not the answer for 75% for this case study. And 50% of the workload are moving back to the private cloud. Whatever the people are going from public, they are going back for private because it turns out it's not cheaper to run everything on the cloud. It depends on the application type and the workload configuration. And you can see here 59% of global infrastructure decision makers are going to implement or expand more in private cloud. So how we can enable or upsell with this opportunity, building a truly private cloud. So this is Nutanix use cases. If I can say, different solutions can run on top of Nutanix. First is the VDI end user computing using VDI. We have, as I mentioned, Xi Frame or Frame is our own VDI solution, but we support VMware Horizon and Citrix then desktop and then app solution. So the idea here with Nutanix, you are reducing the VDI cost by 60% and increasing the performance using the data locality and cluster-wise deduplication. So this is the key feature that we need to tell the customer to run VDI on Nutanix. And remember, the first use case that Nutanix became famous for because VDI, because in the web scale architecture, it's web scale architecture and how it scales and how we can just add more nodes. The performance increase also with new VDI machines. This is a perfect use case for Nutanix. Database solutions, we fully support Oracle databases and SAP, even SAP HANA is supported on Nutanix HV. So the idea is we have different hardware configuration. Like we have a single socket processor with like 3.3 or 3.6 gigahertz and 8 cores to reduce the cost of license for the database. So we have different solutions to run for the hardware to solve the licensing cost of the database. Other than that, we support very large like Windows, very large OS versions like Windows, Linux, or Unix. So we supported to run different like flavors of databases on Nutanix. And we have a solution called, as I mentioned, block storage called volumes, which to have a guest, if you have a guest cluster that we need to share a storage across 2 virtual machines, we can do that with volumes, and it's supported by Oracle actually and Microsoft SQL. So other solution or other use cases, business critical applications. Actually, more than 60% of Nutanix deployments is running for business critical application, not VDI, not like any other workload. So for we have like Exchange, messaging, database, Microsoft, everything is it's supported to run, and you will find like a best practice how to implement this on Nutanix. And of course, you gain the performance, the added performance using the features of Nutanix and all of that. Sorry for that. Big data and analytics. Let's take example of Splunk. Splunk is the market leader in this data center big data and this area. So Splunk actually one of the biggest deployment of Splunk and Nutanix is in Nasdaq, what we call Nasdaq New York Exchange, New York Exchange that runs Nutanix Splunk on top of Nutanix. So it gains the idea, it gains the performance from the data locality and how we can spread the data across multiple nodes. And again, when the workload increases, we can just do the scale out of adding more nodes to the environment. Cloud native, as I mentioned, we fully support Kubernetes, and we have Carbon as a native solution for us. General cloud, general compute, and general server virtualization. This is one of the biggest, highest hits of when we do sizing is just general server virtualization and dev and test use cases. So this we can reduce the cost of virtualization using HV and give higher performance than the competition, because hybrid cloud gives the same deduplication and same performance as all flash configuration. For robo and edge computing, we support 1 node and 2 node cluster. If the customer is retail and he has multiple of sites or banking or has multiple sites, he just need to have 1 node in each site or 2 nodes in each site. It's fully supported by Nutanix and it's centrally managed by Prism. So whatever you want to upgrade, do administration work, you can do it by the same console, Prism Center. Cost governance, we have a solution called Beam. Beam is multi-cloud cost governance. If you have multiple subscription on AWS and Azure, and if you have Nutanix private cloud, you can give them all. And whenever you want to deploy a new application, you give the parameter into Beam, and it gives you a recommendation where to run it as the cheapest cost. And keep monitoring the workload, the machines, and what you are running on all your instance, and give you recommendation how to do cost reduction on that. Move that instance from this tier to lower tier, and it's like that. Security compliance, as I mentioned, we can do ST and data trust encryption and do cluster. Even Nutanix cluster we can perform a cluster lockdown, so it will be harder for someone to penetrate or compromise the solution itself. Structured data and analytics, as we mentioned before, for the big data is the same idea, scale out and higher performance, and using HV it also reduces the cost of the whole solution. Data protection, we'll talk about mine. We can have multiple of layer of data protection. We can do a local snapshot. We can have backup solutions that takes the snapshot, and we support change block tracking and all of that. And we can do backup to the cloud, or do a protection domain to another Nutanix cluster and replicate that virtual machine to another cluster. Smart IT operation using Prism and Prism Pro. We'll talk about that in the next slide. Application automation using Calm, the application full stack application automation, and again there is more slides on that. Business continuity and DR. This is a big differentiator with Nutanix, because we support multiple of replication type. Asynchronous will give us 1 hour RPO. Synchronous replication or metro availability, which will give us 0 RPO and 2 sites active scenario. And also We have what we call near sync. Near sync is 1 minute RPO up to 15 minute RPO, and this is very game changer in this replication part, because it give us a near synchronous performance with none of the requirement of the synchronous network requirement of synchronous replication. Okay, so I hope all these use cases is digested well. So we will talk about 4 products: Prism, Flow, and files, and at the end car. So these 4 products we can upsell any opportunity. If even the customer have Nutanix, we can go ahead and upsell them to the customer. So Prism, we all know, as we discussed, the 3-tier infrastructure will have multiple of GUIs, and like if the customer have automation, all of that, still he need to manage everything separately, even if he has automation. So what is Prism is combine all of this. You can manage the storage, the virtual machines, the hardware, do upgrades, all of this from one single plane of glass, which is Prism. Prism is a service running in the CVM, controller VM, and we have something called Prism Central. It's a virtual machine which is deployed in one of the cluster, and you can manage all cluster from Prism Central. So don't confuse this Prism and the Prism element, which is the service, and Prism Central, which is the virtual machine. And there is something else called Prism Pro. Prism Pro gives us higher analytics and capacity planning capabilities and all of that. So with Prism element, the normal license, not Prism Pro, what we can do is manage, as I said, manage everything, and we can upgrade even the hardware, storage, and virtualization from the same plane of glass. So if you can see here, if you want to upgrade a normal HCI cluster, you need to upgrade vCenter first, verify, prepare, upgrade. This is a minimal task. Then go ahead and upgrade the hypervisor upgrade ESXi. With Nutanix, it's just a single click. You want to upgrade the cluster, go ahead into Acropolis, the Acropolis AOS itself. I want to upgrade, download the image online and upgrade. It will take actually minutes, because we are not bringing the node down. We're just doing a CVM refresh with the new AOS code. Then it will go ahead. You can do an hypervisor upgrade, and all of that is done in just minutes. So this is what we call Prism Pro. If I just play it for you. So you can see here, you can manage the virtual machine from different clusters, select the clusters, and see the virtual machine running on that cluster. You can filter with name. You can see all the performance of that virtual machine. Everything you can do from Prism Central. Also, you can do a dashboard. It's not showing here. Here you can find all the virtual machines. Open a console of that machine from the same GUI. If I want to upgrade the cluster itself, I can upgrade multiple of clusters at the same time. I just perform a cluster upgrade. It will do the prerequisite pre-check and then do the cluster upgrade. All of this happens in the backend. If one node goes, one node will be taken offline and do the upgrade, and then doing the roller upgrade. And whole time of this upgrade happens, the application is not affected, because as we said, it's a rolling upgrade. Okay, so Prism Central You can manage multiple of clusters. You have single sign-on. You can integrate it with Active Directory, and you can have what we call RBAC rules. So a specific group of Active Directory user, like development, can see all some virtual machines and can only view open the console, for example, power on, power off, a specific feature or a specific rules you can do. The other thing is we'll talk about today is Nutanix files, software-defined file NAS solution for your customer. So if the customer already have Nutanix, he has already 1 terabyte of license he can utilize fully free and fully supported by Nutanix. But why files? Why it's important to go ahead and because files, it solves the problem with normal like if your customer have a normal Microsoft file server, which is a hassle to manage and do high availability for, do a replication for. All of this is very hard to check the backlogs and all of that. With files is software defined, so it can scale easily. There is native load balancing across 3 nodes, what we call FSVM, and it's already built on top of Nutanix. So all the storage features that we have in as data duplication, deduplication, and compression, and data locality, all of that is natively inherited from Nutanix Acropolis OS. So you manage it from Prism. Again, single click deployment integrated with Active Directory. Auto tiering is native. You can increase the performance with adding more nodes or scale up the nodes. So if you can see here, FSVM it can be like 4 CPU and 8 GPU. If I need more performance, I can redeploy the machines with 6 CPU and 12 GPU, and it will actually give us a recommendation of that. And also, if I have different entities, I want to do multi-tenancy, like 2 different file server, I can do that using files. I can deploy another file server cluster. And the biggest use case of or how we are selling files is to deploy one more virtual machine called Files Analytics. So File Analytics is a free, it's built-in tool. It analyzes the data. It analyzes how many the data, how big is the data stored, what is the extension of each, like MBG is this much terabyte, MB4 is this much terabyte. It's all like this. There is anomaly. If someone deleted one file, there will be an audit trail. If someone deleted bunch of files, it will trigger anomaly detection and notify the administrator there is something wrong, or someone is changing the files, maybe it's ransomware. All of that can be done using file analytics. Some use cases for files. Let's talk about it briefly. If a customer already have a requirement of redundant geo-location, different location file services, we can propose files. So because we are using Nutanix as a backend, we can do a higher retention for file services. As I mentioned, we can. I don't think I mentioned we support SMP and NFS file share, and the whole file server we can clone it to another. If something happen, we can just clone it and do it as a test and dev, or we can restore from another from older version and separate file server and check whatever happens there. So NFS and SMP is supported, scale up and scale.
Hello, Amar. Hi.
Completely free.
Amar.
After that, it's per terabyte. Yes, there's a question. Yes. Hello.
Amar, Rakesh here. You have done? Completed?
Sorry.
No, you have completed the presentation?
No, I'm still working.
Okay. Sorry. Okay.
You cannot see my screen.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yep. Now.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. We have two versions of files, the one with the normal cluster with the normal virtual machine running on it, and we have a dedicated file services which if the customer have like 10 terabyte of file services, it's lower cost and we can have a separate cluster of them for files. Other thing is Flow. Flow is a microsegmentation tool of Nutanix. It's supported for HV. What is microsegmentation and what is the use of microsegmentation? It comes to address the problem with the east-west traffic. So what is east-west traffic or east-west traffic is if you have here a bunch of virtual machines sitting in 2-3 virtual VLANs, you are free to talk inside the VLAN freely. There is no firewall between them. The firewall will be sitting outside in the data center firewall or perimeter firewall only. With microsegmentation, we build a firewall. We learn the communication from the network interface for each network interface for each virtual machines. So you can use it to have visibility on your network and can have a security to have a additional security and automation also using tags and something like that. So the idea is if one machine from VLAN 10 got infected without files, without flow, all the machines can easily be infected because there is no boundary between them. So with flow, you need to define web tier, app tier, database tier, define each tier which virtual machines, which allowed IPs to access these virtual machines, and outside who can access on which port. Okay, and also we will define that between application tier and data web tier, what ports are allowed. So normally application will talk to app using port 8443 or 8443. And database will be 1443 or something like this. So only this port will be allowed, nothing else will be allowed. To summarize, again, Flow is built-in virtual networking for HV, cannot work on any other hypervisor, it's only for HV. Application-centric network visualization, I can monitor the traffic, I can know which virtual machine is talking to which virtual machine, all of that, and then build the micro-segmentation, do the firewalling in front of each virtual machine. And I can do the network automation, and this micro-segmentation can be automated. So in this rule, I can say any virtual machine that has app start with app, so it will be included automatically here. Or a specific tag. Whenever I can deploy a similar tag, a similar virtual machine, I can apply the same rules. Lastly, we'll talk about application automation using Khan. So when we say application automation, it's end-to-end application. So here we have on-prem and cloud solution, private cloud and public clouds, and you have what we call a management solution for private cloud and Azure Portal or AWS IMA console, all of this managed. And on top of that, we need application automation tool, full stack for every kind of application. This is where Khan can come into the picture. So using Khan, it's like we can create a different views for different groups, and we can automate this. We'll talk about the blueprint. Automate the same blueprint across different clouds, either Nutanix private cloud or public cloud. So this is the blueprint. Like it will be like any other. When you do an application deployment, you will deploy at the beginning the database server, configure it and install it and configure it. Take the IP and configuration file, push it, go and install, deploy a virtual machine, install Apache, and then connect this Apache server to this database server, and then do the web tier, the HCI proxy, and connect it to the different application machines if deployed more of that. So the blueprint simulates the same kind of workload. It will do it in sequence. It will do everything automatically, and at the end give the administrator or the requester an IP to connect to his application. So we have using what we call marketplace, we have a pre-built blueprints. If you can want to deploy, for example, Docker cluster, MySQL, Chef server, Kubernetes, even Splunk. You can want to deploy one single node Splunk. You can just deploy it using single cloud. And all of these blueprints can be run on on-prem and different public cloud, or you can create your own. And of course, as I mentioned, everything is managed through Prism, either on-prem or on cloud deployment. So to summary, Upcon is end-to-end application lifecycle, self-service and governance, and multi-cloud orchestration. Here is mine. Mine is the idea about mine is building. You have Nutanix primary for primary use cases of primary storage. You run on top of it the virtual machine, and you have mine. Mine is for secondary storage or for backup type of data. So there is a integration or partnership with Heiko and Veeam. So we sell the HCI solution from Nutanix, and on top of it, you have your Veeam license to back up your primary Nutanix primary or a normal 3-tier infrastructure. Back it up, put it on top of Nutanix, do the deduplication, compression, all of that. Take advantage of Nutanix, and you can do long-term archiving through cloud tiering and object for higher retention. Okay, so let's summarize why Nutanix, why we are talking about Nutanix here. So data locality is always the main differentiator between Nutanix HCI with the competition. Multi-hypervisor support. So the idea here, we have our own hypervisor, which reduces the cost of the total cost of ownership. We support ESXi, Zen, and Hyper-V. Built-in file services and objects and Kubernetes, as we mentioned. Mix hybrid and all-flash hybrid and all-flash hardware in the same cluster, or have the same features across mixed hybrid and all-flash cluster. Independent upgrades from firmware, hypervisor, Acropolis, files, buckets. All of this, you can do it from Prism with single click. It will do it for you automatically, and it's proven. It's not like something we are selling and we didn't try it. It always will work with you. Nutanix Flow with microsegmentation, added security, native data protection using remote and local replication, as I mentioned, native software data at rest encryption, and native KMS. If you don't have the KMS server, even the keys will be done from Nutanix and stored on an outside server. Full functionality as we post hybrid and all flash configuration. Okay. Thank you for your time today. I hope this session was informative, and I will just look at if there is any questions.
Everyone. So as Amar said, any more information regarding the event or the your PPT slide you want, you can drop email to Amar. He will help you with information, any documents required from the presentation. He will give it to you. Thank you so much for joining, and thank you, Amar. So let's
Thank you.
let's meet guys for the next session. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank